right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be hiding out there on the globe today. Welcome to the WP Plugins A to Z interview show. With me today is Mike Stott from Manchester, England. He is the CEO and founder of Epic Plugins and Epic Themes. He was also the co-founder of ZeroBS CRM, a WordPress plugin that adds CRM functionality to your dashboard. And he's here to join me today to talk about his plugins. We're going to hit a little high points about the REST API, what it's like to change from a 9-to-5 job for WP to a full-time WordPress plugin business, and a few other things. So welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks, John. It's a bit later over here. It's 8 p.m. in the UK, and so we're battling a bit of a time difference. But it'll be good to talk through my journey into the world of WordPress from what was probably not the way you'd normally expect to go into this sort of job.
Oh, absolutely. I can sort of understand that, though I've been pretty much self-employed for 20 years. It was still a challenge to move my business forward. So at any rate, we'll start right off the top then there at that point there. What was it like for you? Obviously, you had a full-time job. How long did you do plugins part-time along with your full-time job before you saw that your plugin business was viable?
So it was about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I started it started back in 2011, towards the end of 2011, when I was leaving a job as a pensions consultant. And at the time, I had a 3-month notice where I wasn't able to go on any client work. Mm-hmm. So I was chatting to one of the senior managers in another office, and at the time, it was when Call of Duty on the PlayStation 4 was really popular, so we all used to play that in our spare time. And one of them said to me, "Oh, you've got 3 months of pretty much doing nothing. Why don't you just write a book on how to be rubbish at Call of Duty?" Because I was always the worst one out of all of the players that used to go on it. So I started writing a book called 101 Tips to Get Worse at Call of Duty. Released that as an ebook towards the end of 2011, which coincided with another version of the game coming out. And that, for me, did quite well because it was something that it was my first taste of passive income.
Nice.
So it sort of came on the back of that, and then I thought, I can write these in my spare time. I was single at the time, and I released probably another 2 or 3 books, and it was doing around about $100 a week at the time.
That's not a bad thing to have coming in.
Yeah, and so on the back of that, I thought, well, I'm giving Amazon quite a big chunk of the change here, so let's put a website together that I can sell my books direct. So I tried to do that, and I had no WordPress development experience. I had no at university. I did a maths degree, so I didn't do any computer science or anything like that. It was all from effectively, right, I want to set this website up. What do I do? How do I save the books that I want to sell? So I did a bit of research, found WordPress, which was way more popular in 2011 and 12, and it still is now, than alternatives like Joomla or Drupal. So right. I thought, I'm going to go with WordPress. I learned it from there and started effectively building a custom website to sell ebooks. And then I tried people onto the website to sell their own ebooks, and then I take a commission. And I built it under an offer system rather than a fixed price. So again, there was a lot of what do you want to see? I had about 150 authors on the website selling their books through my website, but it wasn't actually selling any books. So they were listing the books, but it wasn't selling any to anybody else. So it was taking a ton of my time to convert their books to relevant formats, and it wasn't making any money. But I did have a couple of feature requests. So one author said, "I'm writing a new book, I've got 10 book cover ideas. It'd be good if I could have a gallery on my profile page, and if people click on an image of a book, it'll bring it up like on Facebook, and you can like and you can comment and you can share." So I went about looking to build that feature. So actually, it was a little bit outside of my skill set at the time. So I went on a freelancing website, found a freelancer there, and he quoted me at the time 1,000 UK pounds to build this plugin, and the website wasn't making any money, so I said, look, I really can't afford even like £100. Like, so he went away, came back, and we went into it in like a joint venture agreement back then, and that turned into the Social Gallery plugin, which was our first plugin that we put on a marketplace called Code Canyon, and it pretty much just went from there. So that started off, and we weren't really expecting it to sell any because it was sort of on the back of the website, and that ended up doing probably about $500 in its first month. But then over time, it's continued to keep selling, and it's probably done in the past 4 years about $100,000 in sales. So it's
very nice.
It's a very strong performing plugin, but because it was a joint venture, and the other developer did a lot of the development, I was getting like a small share of that at the time.
Right.
So that's when I really started to see there was money to be made through selling my own code.
Oh, absolutely.
So then I learned myself to write a few other different WordPress plugins, and I put my own Code Canyon account up. And then we decided. So I'm still really good friends with this developer, and I'll get into that a little bit later.
Okay.
But we had this like race to who could get 10,000 sales the quickest, and we had this custom website, both tracking each of the accounts on Envato, and sort of showing which one was sort of getting there the quickest. And so that went on for a good couple of years until I ended up buying him out of the other plugin because he had other commitments at the time. So he couldn't support it. He couldn't. It just got, because we had quite a lot of users. It sold nearly 5,000 copies now. So, and
nice.
each sale had like quite a lot of people like asking questions, and it got too much for him. And I was sort of effectively wanting to get into more. So I thought, well, it made sense, and so we did the transaction, and I ended up purchasing it in the middle of 2013.
Very nice. Well, let me ask you here. Can you tell us at what point in the buildup of a business do you think it's when someone should head out from their 9-to-5 job and commit themselves fully, when they've fully made money, or partway to making the money, or somewhere in the beginning? You know, what sort of, how did you finally make that decision?
It depends how risk averse you are. So my previous role was as an actuary. So it was assessing risk and like in insurance and risking longevity and different types of risk. So depending on your own personal risk aversion, you'll have people that feel comfortable going as soon as they start to get like a little bite. So people might have gone after 2 or 3 months of a plugin doing $500 a month. But for me, it took me a lot longer because I was effectively wanting to make sure I had enough cash flow behind me that if the sales completely dried up, then I'd have enough income to cover my expenses for like 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
So I sort of had in my head that there might be a risk that this cash flow just completely dries up. So I didn't want to leave until I got it to a certain, and it's continued to be at a good level for pretty much ever since 2012. So in hindsight, I could have left in 2012,
right?
But it would have been a lot riskier. It probably give me a lot more stress, and I probably would have ended up doing a lot more freelance than I probably would have liked to be doing. And
okay, well, that makes sense. I understand how that goes. I do a lot more freelance than I like sometimes, but than I do working on the little things that I prefer to be working on. Let me ask you a question. You've got quite the portfolio of plugins. I was looking on at Envato, where you've got 8 plugins listed there, and you've got quite a few plugins listed directly on your website. And accordingly, some of the information you said, you've got 20 plus plugins, 6 plus themes. So what's it like to manage that kind of portfolio? Do you manage it yourself, or do you have a team?
It's just myself. So I've dabbled with having a team. So I had somebody help me with support for about a year and a bit, but then he ended up going to university, and he wasn't able to have a job on the side of going to university. It was one of the conditions of student visa. So he couldn't carry on. And then there was somebody else that helped me then when he left, but then he's still in a 9 to 5, and he was trying to do freelance as well as do support. And generally, I've found that like over the time, as long as I've been building up the documentation for the products, that even though we do get some support requests in still, they're not as much as maybe they were at the start when it wasn't maybe as well documented. So I think it's been a combination of probably volume of sales for some of the plugins that don't really sell that many,
Right.
and having documentation for the ones that do. So even though I've got like 20 or 30, I think at the peak there's about 20 plugins, there's probably only a handful that sell in volumes to worry me about support. So if I sell a lot, then I might get like a little flurry of support in. But
Well, if you're handling it on your own, you've got like several plugins. I was looking at how many sales are listed up on Envato Forum, but let's take, for instance, your social gallery WordPress photo viewer, which you've got over 4,000 sales of the plugin for. And that one there has got to generate a bit of support questions. How do you balance the support questions or the support you need to do with keeping your plugins up to date? And it's got to be, it's a bit of a balancing act. I know, because right now I've got 2 plugins that I've worked on, and I support them mostly for select clients, but keeping them up to date is a challenge. So how's it working for you?
There's some plugins that I've not updated for a while. There's other, and I think if you give it enough time, you start having customers say, "Oh, it's not been updated for a while. Are you still supporting it?" So I've had that recently with Social Gallery that I don't think I've updated it for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. It works, and there's a lot of plugins out there, certainly on Code Canyon, that just do updates in an attempt to like game the system, because they think there's like an algorithm play where a frequently updated plugin might get shown higher than one that isn't updated as frequent. And I think to a point, then it's sort of that is to a case, but people that are updating like weekly, it just gets a bit too much for the customers as well. So I try and get an update out maybe like once every 6 months, but some of them, if there's nothing to update, then it gets a little bit like, well, I'm only updating this, so the last updated line changes.
You're right.
I get less.
Plugins don't always need update. Like one of my favorite plugins that I re-reviewed in my show that goes out today is one for fast image insertion into WordPress. It hasn't been updated in 4 years. Granted, the authors probably abandoned it, but the plugin still functions well. It doesn't seem to have any security issues. A lot of times updates I see, usually, hopefully, they're adding new features to it or enhancing the features that currently exist. Or replacing security issues. That's what I expect from updates. I don't know what other people expect. So.
Yeah, and as for feature requests, we don't really get too many sort of feature requests coming in. So certainly for Social Gallery, it does a job of opening an image in a lightbox like Facebook, and you can like and share and comment. It does. That's its sort of narrow focus, and it does it well. Uh-huh. The main reasons for updating that is if Facebook changed their API number and they require that effectively you need to update your permissions, and they're generally quite small tweaks.
Nice.
So I updated the video viewer probably only a couple of weeks ago because YouTube had closed their old API, so it now needed an API key to get the video information for the YouTube video. So
right.
that drove an update on the back of that change, but generally keep throwing new updates in there. It can overcomplicate the product as well for the end users. So you might have one person that wants this feature, but then all of your 4,900 other people are fine with it. And if you add that feature, it might break something else that then causes issues with the people that didn't want that feature or were quite happy
with the way it was. Been there, done that. So let me ask you, you made mention in the email that you'd sent out here about a little bit about the WordPress REST API and new areas and integrations that it's developing. Now, from my point of view, I don't often spend time writing, but I spend time fixing or avoiding hacked websites. And I've seen a lot of issues with the openness of the API. And there's been several things that passed the web in the last couple of months, from WordPress 4.7 to 4.73, where they plugged a bunch of security holes. And I'm thinking today, after working on a client site where I was having an issue, that it looks like there's still a couple of holes in the API. What is your viewpoints about the REST API, and what kind of areas are you talking about with how it can create integrations for you?
Yeah, sure. So at the time that I sent you the email, we had the plans to use the REST API that was now included in WordPress 4.7 for the API for the CRM plugin that we're So I've been the lead developer on that work stream. But as soon as I started reading into the documentation, I'm like, well, there's no API key, there's no API secret. There was nothing that it was effectively like an RSS feed in JSON format that it didn't. I think there's still a way for it to go to be able to really build on it. So we ended up building our own API using the same sort of using our own custom endpoints within the plugin. Right. So we've effectively wrote an API wrapper for our custom posts that are within the CRM. So the customer lists, the invoices, the quotes, the transactions, and the ability to create, and that's driven from API keys and API secrets. A bit similar to how WooCommerce have their own API within.
Right.
So it's rather than rely on the WP REST API, which didn't seem to have proper authentication yet, that it was doing the cookies. So if you're logged in,
right,
then you can access the API. But that's no good if you're trying to build an iPhone app or a Chrome extension, which are some of the things that we're looking at for the CRM.
Oh, okay.
So we wanted to build our own way to input an API key, a secret, and have your custom endpoints that then give you the same type of output that the REST API does.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I think in a couple of years, or hopefully sooner, that they'll get like a proper build out of the WordPress API, because it does seem like there's a lot of developers looking forward to building Angular apps that have WordPress as the database side of it.
Well, it might be that they rushed it too quick out there. I don't know. I know that we've been looking forward to the REST API for a long time, and then when it arrives, we start seeing all kinds of unique ways that it's being abused. And the abuse that I dealt with recently today actually was it seemed like they'd found a way to insert spam comments into websites with having the commenting system turned off in the dashboard of WordPress. So one that I'm still tracking down, but not certain it's the REST API yet, but that's my theory at the moment.
Yeah.
So anyway, tell us a bit about some of the better plugins you've got over at Code Canyon, and this is a point where you get to give us all the URLs and everything so people can get hold of you.
Oh, yeah, sure. So what's the best way for sending the links? Are you going to include them in show notes?
I will include them in show notes. You just forward them on to me. Some of them I've grabbed off your websites by following everything I could search about you, and those will be in there. But tell us a bit about on Code Canyon, which ones are your better selling plugins you've got there?
It was probably about May last year, I closed down one of my Code Canyon accounts and started selling direct for a number of reasons, and I'm probably going to go the same way soon with the other account.
Okay.
But so the Code Canyon Epic Plugins account, the best performing plugins on there are the Social Gallery Photo Viewer and Social Buzz. So Social Gallery Photo Viewer we've spoke about.
Right.
Quite a bit before. It gives you your Facebook Lightbox for any of your image galleries on your website. The Social Buzz plugin gives you it's a social share graph for how many likes and shares your articles had over time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got a very viral article, then you'll be getting a lot of shares in a short period of time, and you'll have a nice looking graph. But if it's quite a slow article that's getting like a share every couple of days, it's more of a flat chart. So it's a visual way of seeing an article's buzz, effectively. So they're probably the two most popular plugins on Code Canyon. On the theme side, it will be the plugin hunt theme, which is pluginhunt.com.
Okay.
And that's it's a WordPress theme that will actually have a product hunt style website. So product hunt's a very popular curation website, and all my themes have effectively been written around like a curation upvote downvote type WordPress theme. So that started off with the Reddit theme. So I created a theme in a weekend, and this was while I was still in my 9 to 5. I gave myself like a mini challenge of making Reddit for WordPress. So I developed the so this was back in 2012. I can't exactly remember when. So it was my first WordPress theme. I built it using Bootstrap, and learn, because of my maths background, I decided to research the Reddit algorithms and how the upvoting, downvoting worked, and built that into a plugin as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a theme and also a plugin if you wanted it on a different website. But then it was probably early 2013 that I believe Growth Hackers, I don't know if you've heard of growthhackers.com.
No, don't believe I have.
So they actually purchased the WP Edit theme at the time,
mm-hmm.
But then modified it quite a bit into to be used for their Growth Hackers website. And then I had a customer of my theme say, "Oh, I found out that this website's using your theme, but it looks different than your demo. Is there anything? Can you make me a version like that?" So I effectively did the same types of modifications, and since so Growth Hackers now is probably a very popular website similar to Product Hunt. And then on the back of that, someone said, "Our Product Hunt also using your theme." So I think Product Hunt launched, I'm not sure when they launched, but it was definitely after that first theme I built. So I had people thinking the new content creation websites were using my themes. So I built very similar versions, and those sell quite well because people quite like the sort of plug and play and have a website quite similar to this website.
Right.
So it's easy for them, and it's a lot cheaper than them paying a developer to develop it for them. Because that's just, if somebody wants to have a website that looks like Reddit, then they'll probably go about doing it, and it's really what content they're putting it on there. It's not giving away any of the data from those types of websites. It's just, it looks a bit like it, and people like think because that website does well, then I use this theme. It's not, people know what they're doing. It's familiar, and it's the same with the Facebook Live, with the social gallery viewer. That it's the familiar feel of something. And
cool. Very nice. All right. Well, let's give off some URLs, and we're going to wrap this one up then.
Okay, sure. Just want me to list them out?
Yeah, you list them out, and I'll make sure they're in the show notes so that people can just go to the show notes to click on them. But sometimes when they hear them, they'll remember them. So.
Yeah, sure. So the social gallery plugin is socialgalleryplugin.com.
Yeah.
The product hunt style theme is pluginhunt.com, and that's the demo website where I use it to hunt plugins. So it does confuse some people that think it might be a plugin, but that's definitely a theme. And then you've got wpedit.com, which is like Reddit but WP for WordPress. So wpedit.com. They're all available through epicthemes.com and epicplugins.com as well.
Okay.
And then the final thing that we've not really spoke about is the CRM product that we've just relaunched. It's just about a year old, and that's zerobscrm.com. So that's a customer relationship management software within your WordPress. So if you want a CRM for your clients or for your own, or for whatever you may need it for, if you're selling products through WooCommerce, then you install this free plugin off WordPress, and then there's some extensions that you can purchase which are optional, which will get your customers from your WooCommerce store into your CRM.
Very nice.
And there's loads of different things that this CRM can do, and we've written the API to integrate with Zapier, which is like a middleman between loads of other services. So anybody that signs up to your MailChimp can then be imported into your WordPress customer list. So everything's in one place, and you can contact your clients easily and know all of the history between them.
Right.
So that's our main offerings at the moment.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Mike. I really appreciate your time on the show here today. And don't go away here. We're just going to hang on for a second. Thanks for listening to the show. This show is copyright by johnoverall.com. So until next time, have yourselves a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be out there on the globe today.